I will introduce what we're doing under the Innovative Finance Lab, which is a flagship project for UNDP. And the Innovative Finance Lab was established after the establishment of the Ethiopian Capital Market Authority, specifically to develop a new financial solution for SMEs and startups through the capital market. And so with that, we're trying to work on various things, and just to give you the 4 major areas that we're working on. We are supporting companies to become investment ready through a technical assistance facility. So this is just taking companies, CEOs, founders to understand what is the operational management requirement by investors, and also to develop an investable data room for investors to look at to design their investment propositions. So we've been doing that with 150 companies so far that we screened through our investment criteria, and we're providing technical assistance. Another major activity that we're undertaking is development of the enterprise financing facility, which is targeting to be the first locally domiciled fund for Ethiopia under the capital market, and raising $100 million to invest in SMEs and startups, as well as operate as a fund of fund. And then the other is we're working on a regulatory sandbox with ECMA as well as CPE. And then the last bit is a knowledge sharing unit, where we're trying to diversify the financial instruments that and broadening the knowledge around us. And so as part of this work, we are working with different partners in developing various financial instruments. And so that's what I will try to focus on today. And the first one that we're working on is through our partnership with the Ethiopian Capital Market Authority, as well as FSD Ethiopia and also FSD Africa. We have signed an MOU to work on various instruments, and our role this is to develop green finance framework for Ethiopia. And currently, a consulting firm named Genesis have been assigned to conduct scoping study on the feasible green finance instruments in Ethiopia. And the outcomes will be we have a recommendation of feasible financing mechanisms and instruments, with review of the investment project pipelines, with recommendations on how to link with domestic and international investors, and also we'll have a contextualized framework and ecosystem for a conducive environment, specifically on green bonds and green finance generally. And then we'll have another project under the Innovative Finance Lab, which is under the BioFin, which is the Biodiversity Finance framework of UNDP Global. And under that project, we are working to develop a national biodiversity finance plan for Ethiopia. And this is through JEF funding. So we have started the work on that. We're going to onboard experts to conduct the policy and then the finance and the environmental, all of that assessments, and have at the end a national biodiversity finance plan for the country. And there are around 32 countries which are undertaking this study, and Ethiopia has been financed to do its own national biodiversity finance plan. And then as part of that, there's another funding that we received from NORAD, where we'll be testing, pre-testing, before the whole National Biodiversity Finance Plan is finalized. We'll be testing 2 instruments to potentially provide technical assistance to issue, either it's green bonds or for people to engage in carbon markets and the like. So we are trying to identify opportunities and projects that could be testing green bonds and the like. So alongside our work with our partners, we're also trying to undertake with the private sector. And then the last one is our work in developing a green taxonomy. That's a very broad concept to understand, but we're trying to pilot a green taxonomy for the fund that we're setting up. And so for the $100 million fund, we're targeting to have at least 15% of the fund allocated for green projects under SMEs and startups. And so for our fund to identify what is green, what is investable, taxonomy. And we're hoping this taxonomy could be adapted as a pilot for the country to be scaled at an Ethiopia level to develop a green taxonomy framework for the country. So this will be a pilot, and then we can potentially expand that. And then we're also starting the work on this. So generally, these are the areas that we're working on, and hopefully the main outcome would be piloting and testing green bonds under the capital market, and specifically for us it would be potentially SMEs. But then just to mention a few things about what we're envisioning, what are green bonds, we've been throwing this word around. I just wanted to mention a few points. And so green bonds are similar to a natural bond framework or a financing mechanism, but the funds raised under green bonds will be specific to utilizing and financing of green projects. And so the other thing that I mentioned, where we identify which projects are actually green, what can be financed as a green project, then comes here. So projects that are green will be earmarked, the funds will be earmarked for funding these positive projects for the environment. And then globally, if you look at this market, this has been the quickly growing market globally, and has reached around $1.1 trillion in the year 2024. And totally, like since the world has started issuing green bonds, that there is a total value of 5.7 trillion. So you can imagine there's a lot of transactions, there's a lot of interest happening around green finance and green bonds specifically. So we want to be part of this and to tap into this market as well. And so who can issue green bonds? Green bonds can be issued by both the government, the public, as well as the private companies. And the government can issue green bonds to finance infrastructure projects, energy, renewable energy, a lot of the projects that we have undergoing. We can have housing projects that can qualify under the green criteria and the like. And then the private sector, there has been a lot of private companies that qualify the green criteria, and so they can also raise funding for their projects through green bonds. So what is required? Locally, what would be ideal would be, because every taxonomy, of course, we have the EU taxonomy, which is the most broad one, but then every taxonomy, every country has its own interests. So a locally adopted green taxonomy would be ideal to raising green projects. And then also the requirement is for these projects to be internationally accepted, they need to be certified by international evaluators, right? So already accredited evaluators are there, so the project has to be certified to become viable. And so this has an added requirement and cost for issuers, of course. So definitely issuers will be requiring support. Initially, especially in Ethiopia, companies are trying to get certifications. It's definitely going to be international, so it's going to have an added cost. So an aligned public-private recognition of project ownership is also required, mostly, whenever there are private companies, for instance, if we have a coffee grower that is trying to certify its project as green, then it has to be aligned with what the government has already accounted for, right? And also what this company can account for. If it is already recognized under the country, then it will be done with auditing, right? So everything has to be aligned, so the private and public projects has to be aligned for the auditing and then the evaluation, the certifications to have. So there needs to be a streamlined auditing and increasing accountability to increasing accountability for investors. Finally, of course, we can't always rely on international certifications, so to mitigate the cost and also the understanding and the awareness, local capacity and knowledge has to grow. And so potentially, Asia, for instance, have grown and have a lot of certifiers, local certifiers. And so the potential for companies to continuously issue to green bonds is to have local capacity. And so ultimately we would want companies to be established, local certifiers, so that they're internationally recognized, but that's down the line. At least let's have the issues first, right? So that's all. Thank you very much.